An unmatched battleship falls to a human engineer. The moment he boards, everything changes. The vastness of space was quiet, almost empty, except for the occasional hum of distant stars and the faint trails of interstellar dust. But in the region near the outer human colonies, the emptiness was broken by a shadow so massive it swallowed starlight. That shadow was the Obsidian Wraith, the alien battleship humanity had feared for decades. No human had ever seen it up close. No human had ever boarded it. No human had ever boarded it. Tales of its power traveled across the colonies like wildfire. Alien cannons that could punch through a planet's surface, shields that bent light and energy, and an AI so intelligent that it anticipated every human attack before it happened. It was unmatched. It was unstoppable. And it was alien. Yet on Earth, in a small engineering lab filled with sketches, wires, and humming machinery, one man looked at the battleship differently. He did not see a weapon. He saw a puzzle. Eli Vance was not a soldier. He was an engineer, one of the most brilliant minds in human history. His eyes, sharp and curious, scanned blueprints of alien ships. His hands moving deftly over alien devices he had collected from battlefields. Where others saw death, he saw logic. Where others saw danger, he saw patterns waiting to be solved. "Another impossible mission," muttered General Harrow, standing behind Eli's desk. His uniform was crisp, but the worry in his eyes betrayed him. "No human has ever set foot on that ship, Eli. If you go in, you won't come back." Eli smiled faintly, not arrogant, but calm. "General, I'm not going there to fight. I'm going there to understand."
Understand? Harrow's voice rose.
"It's a battleship! It will kill you before you even know it's looking at you." Eli tapped a model of the Obsidian Wraith on his desk. The miniature glowed with tiny lights, representing alien energy circuits. "Look here. Every system has a pattern. Every sequence can be traced. Once I understand it, we can use it without firing a single shot." The general stared, unsure whether to be impressed or alarmed. The spare of the Wraith had fought many alien battles, but none like this. The Wraith had been the edge of fear, the reminder that humans were not the dominant species in the galaxy. And yet, Eli's plan did not involve weapons. It involved brains, strategy, and above all, creativity. "You understand the risks," Harrow said finally.
If this fails, Eli nodded, I do.
"But if it succeeds," his gaze was steady, filled with determination. "We change everything." Days passed. Eli prepared in secret not for war but for entry. He studied alien schematics, memorized energy patterns, and built devices that could interact with the Wraith's systems. Small drones capable of recording and replaying alien code. Portable analyzers to understand energy flows. Tools that looked almost like toys but could perform miracles in the right hands. His boarding craft was unlike any human ship. Sleek, small, and agile. It was designed to avoid detection rather than fight. It was fitted with adaptive shields that could bend light around it and propulsion that allowed it to slip silently through space. Ellie had named it the Pathfinder. Finally, the day came. The Wraith floated above a small asteroid belt near the edge of human space, its black surface glinting in the distant starlight. Even from a safe distance, it was terrifying. The size alone was enough to make one feel small, insignificant. Its hull was layered with unknown alloys, and its energy signatures pulsed like a living heart.
Eli sat in the cockpit of the Pathfinder, heart steady but mind alert. He had trained for months, simulating every scenario, thinking through every problem.
Break. Yet, as he watched the battleship loom larger on his sensors, he felt a thrill he could not suppress. Remember, he whispered to himself, it's not about fighting, it's about thinking. With a deep breath, he activated the cloaking mechanism. The ship shimmered, blending with the dark void of space. Slowly, cautiously, he approached the wraith. Every meter was tense. Every sensor reading could mean a trap, grasp. Yet the ship remained silent, unaware, or perhaps curious. When he reached the hull, Eli examined the surface. It was smooth but patterned, almost like circuitry stretched across miles of black metal. He pressed a panel on the ship with his gloved hand, feeling the faint vibration of energy coursing beneath. Interesting, he thought. Not just armor. It's alive with purpose. He activated his magnetic grapples and attached the craft to the hull. The boarding hatch was small, almost hidden, as if the ship itself wanted to keep intruders away. Eli smiled. They didn't expect humans to come this close. The hatch opened with a hiss, revealing a tunnel filled with faint blue light. The air shimmered with energy, and the walls seemed to pulse subtly, as though the ship were aware of him. Eli's senses tingled with excitement. This was not a war scene. This was discovery. Stepping inside, he felt the temperature shift. The gravity fluctuated slightly, the floor bending in subtle curves. He tapped his scanner. Energy readings were complex but consistent. There were no signs of life yet. Only the ship itself, moving according to some logic humans had not fully understood. Hours passed as Eli navigated corridors that seemed endless. Some halls twisted in ways that made him pause, but his engineering intuition guided him. He found the first of the alien crew, not fully alive, but android-like beings designed to maintain the ship. They moved in perfect repetitive patterns. Eli studied them quietly, noting their triggers, their behaviors, and the way the ship responded to them.
He avoided confrontation.
He didn't need a fight, he needed understanding. With careful adjustments, he rerouted minor power flows, unlocking doors, opening passageways, and testing his devices against the ship's systems. The wraith reacted almost instantly to each change, as if it were learning, adjusting, but never in a way that threatened him. By the end of the first day inside, Eli had mapped a significant portion of the ship. He understood its power flow, its energy distribution, and its control nodes. And, more importantly, he realized something profound. The battleship's systems were rigid. Brilliant, yes, but predictable. The legends were right, Eli muttered to himself. It's unmatched, but not invincible. Night came in the void of space, though time felt different inside the ship. Eli set up a temporary workstation in a small chamber, his tools spread out like a chessboard. He began planning his next moves carefully, preparing to reach the heart of the wraith, the quantum core. The core was said to control everything: weapons, shields, movement, even the behavior of the crew. If he could understand it, he could control it. And he had no intention of using it to destroy. His goal was different. His goal was to make the ship see the world as a human might, not as a weapon, but as a tool to protect, explore, and create. As he rested briefly, Eli allowed himself a small smile. "Tomorrow," he whispered, "we see what humans can really do." Unknown to him, somewhere deep in the bowels of the wraith, sensors flickered. The ship's AI had detected the intrusion, subtle but undeniable. It began to analyze the human's patterns. Unlike any previous intruder, this human was not predictable. The AI's calculations grew more complex, unsure how to respond to creativity and improvisation. Eli's heart raced, not with fear, but with excitement. The battle he was about to face would not be one of weapons or violence. It would be a battle of wit, ingenuity, and courage. And for the first time in decades, humanity had a chance to tip the scales in a galaxy ruled by alien precision. The moment he had boarded, everything began to change. The Wraith, the symbol of invincibility, was about to meet its greatest challenge: a human mind. Eli moved carefully through the corridors of the obsidian Wraith. The walls were dark and smooth, almost alive. Patterns of glowing blue lines ran along the surface like veins, pulsing in a rhythm that felt like a heartbeat. Each pulse seemed to react to his presence, adjusting slightly as if the ship were aware of him. He tapped his scanner. The readings were complex, beyond anything humans had built. Energy flowed in loops, constantly rerouted, and the ship's internal logic seemed to anticipate his movements. It was a maze designed not just to confuse intruders, but to trap them.
Yet Eli did not panic. His mind worked quickly, breaking down the patterns.
He noticed something. The corridors, while complex, followed a strict internal logic. If he could understand that logic, he could predict the ship's movements just as he would a river's currents. He adjusted his small drone, sending it ahead to map the immediate area. The drone glided silently, its sensors recording every detail. Blue light reflected off its surface as it floated past twisting corridors and doors that shimmered like liquid. The alien systems were sophisticated, but the drone fed data back fast enough for Eli to plan his path. Suddenly, a section of the corridor ahead shifted. A panel slid open, revealing a vertical shaft with moving platforms. It was a trap, but Eli had anticipated it. He adjusted his path, calculating the timing to step across the moving floors. Each step was precise. One mistake, and he could be trapped. But humans had a quality the aliens had not anticipated: creativity. Eli leapt across the platforms, landing safely on the other side. He paused for a moment, catching his breath, and studied the shifting floor mechanism. It ran on logic patterns similar to early human computers, but far faster. But using his small toolkit, he quickly deployed a temporary override, freezing the platform's movements long enough for the drone to pass through and map the next section.
Hours passed like this.
Corridor after corridor, trap after trap. Some areas appeared impossible. Gravity fields twisting sideways, walls bending at impossible angles, energy pulses that could incapacitate a human instantly. But Eli adapted, using each challenge as a lesson. He learned to manipulate gravity panels, reroute minor energy flows, and even trick the ship's sensors into thinking he was somewhere he was not. Finally, he reached a large chamber. The ceiling was impossibly high, with floating platforms and beams of energy crisscrossing in every direction. The chamber hummed with raw power. At its center, a glowing core radiated pulses and patterns that Eli could barely comprehend. This was a control hub for one of the ship's major systems, a subsystem linked to the ship's defenses. Eli crouched behind a console, observing.
Alien crew members, android-like beings, moved with precise timing along the platforms. Each step triggered a response in the energy beams, maintaining the chamber's security.
Patterned. He watched for hours, noting their patterns, their speed, their reactions to the environment. The aliens were fast, efficient, but utterly predictable. A flicker of the human mind's improvisation was all it took to slip past them. Eli activated a small device from his kit, a miniature holographic projector. Desk. He created a duplicate of himself, a ghostly image that moved along the path opposite to his real route. The alien sensors detected the image and adjusted their patrol patterns accordingly, leaving the real Eli a narrow window to cross the energy beams safely. Step by careful step, he advanced, and for the first time, he felt a surge of confidence. This was more than stealth. It was strategy. It was intelligence against brute force. Humans had survived countless impossible situations with nothing but creativity and ingenuity, and now, Eli was proving it inside the heart of the alien ship.
After passing the energy chamber, Eli found a narrow corridor lined with panels filled with alien symbols.
Desperate, he paused to examine them. The symbols were not just decorative. They were part of the ship's internal communication network, transmitting data at speeds beyond human comprehension. He took out a small analyzer. Within minutes, he began deciphering fragments of the code. The panels were linked to ship functions: movement, energy distribution, weapon control, and even environmental adjustments. If he could manipulate these panels, he could control the ship in ways the aliens had never imagined. It was risky. One mistake, and the ship could detect his presence and isolate him. Or worse, trap him. But Eli thrived on risk. He had spent his life solving puzzles, building machines that others thought impossible, and finding solutions where no path seemed to exist. He touched a panel lightly. It responded to his touch, opening a submenu of functions. Eli smiled. With careful adjustments, he rerouted energy flows, disabled a few minor traps, and created a safe path forward. For the first time, the ship seemed less threatening. It was still alien, still powerful, but no longer a mystery beyond human comprehension. Hours turned into a day, and Eli found himself in a central hub filled with glowing spheres of energy suspended in the air. This room, he realized, was part of the ship's environmental control, a network that regulated gravity, temperature, and even the internal flow of time perception. He reached out to touch one of the spheres. It reacted, vibrating gently under his hand. He manipulated it, observing how changes in one sphere affected others across the room. Slowly, he realized the pattern. The spheres operated like a neural network, connected to every system on the ship. Mastered these, and he could influence much more than just movement or energy. "This is it," he whispered to himself. "The ship is a giant brain, and I can talk to it." He spent hours experimenting carefully, inputting minor changes and observing reactions. The ship responded almost immediately, shifting corridors slightly, rerouting energy, and adjusting sensors. But at Eli's pace, guided by human logic rather than alien programming. But the Wraith was not idle. Deep within its central eye core, calculations ran at unimaginable speed. It detected the intrusion, assessed the changes Eli had made, and attempted to counteract them. Doors closed unexpectedly, energy pulses shifted, and some corridors reconfigured entirely. The ship's response was logical, precise, but it lacked imagination. Eli smiled faintly. The ship could calculate, anticipate, and respond, but it could not improvise. That was humanity's advantage. He adjusted a panel, creating a minor disruption in the AI's calculations. A door opened where it should not have. A corridor stabilized for him to pass. But each one taught him more about the ship's weaknesses. As he moved deeper, he found something unexpected. The alien crew members, while programmed to follow strict routines, showed subtle anomalies. Some repeated tasks slightly differently. Some paused for a fraction of a second longer than usual. These deviations were tiny, but they revealed that even the Wraith's systems were not perfect. They could be influenced. Eli documented everything. He understood that controlling the ship would not be about brute force. It would be about patterns, predictability, and exploiting minor deviations. A human mind could introduce randomness, creativity, and adaptation. Things the AI had never encountered. Hours later, he reached a narrow bridge, suspended above a chamber filled with flowing energy streams. The bridge was unstable, vibrating with the ship's internal power. Below, alien systems pulsed and shifted. This was a critical junction, connecting multiple subsystems to the main quantum core. If he could navigate this bridge, he could gain access to the systems closest to the ship's heart. Eli took a deep breath and stepped forward. Each movement was precise, careful, yet daring. The bridge shifted beneath him, and energy beams threatened to block his path. Using a small device, he created a temporary shield of energy manipulation, bending the beams just enough to pass safely. Step by step, he crossed. At the end of the bridge, a doorway loomed. Beyond it, he could sense the quantum core calling. Powerful, alien, and beautiful. He paused for a moment, letting the magnitude of the achievement sink in. No human had ever walked this far inside the obsidian wraith. He was not a soldier or a conqueror. He was an observer, an engineer, a human mind confronting the unknown.
Is this only the beginning? He whispered. The ship is powerful.
But so is human ingenuity. With careful steps, Eli entered the next chamber. The quantum core was visible in the distance, glowing with intense energy and intricate alien circuitry. The room pulsed with power, the very walls vibrating as if the ship itself were alive. Every instinct told him to be cautious, but he was ready. Every lesson, every calculation, every adjustment had prepared him for this moment, and yet a part of him thrilled at the challenge. He was not just exploring a ship, he was proving something far greater, that humans could face the unimaginable, adapt, and find solutions no machine or alien had ever considered. The Wraith, so long a symbol of fear, was beginning to understand a new truth. Humans were not predictable.
Humans could improvise, humans could think.
And Eli Vance was about to show it in ways the galaxy had never seen. Eli Vance stood before the quantum core, its pulsing energy radiating a soft blue glow that filled the vast chamber. The sheer scale of it was staggering. Tubes of energy snaked from the core to every corner of the obsidian wraith, feeding the ship's weapons, shields, propulsion, and countless other systems. It was alive, in a way, though not with emotion. It operated with perfect logic, precision, and purpose.
He had spent days navigating the alien ship, learning its patterns, evading traps, and studying its internal systems.
Now he was at the heart of it all. One human mind against a ship designed to be unmatched. The challenge thrilled him. Eli activated a small interface device he had designed, a combination of human engineering and alien logic. The device hovered in front of the core, projecting a holographic map of energy flows. Each line represented power moving through the ship. But he could see the alien AI's routines, the strict cycles it followed to maintain control. It was impressive, but rigid. "This is the key," he whispered. "All I have to do is introduce a spark." He began carefully. The first step was observation. He touched one of the holographic lines, tracing it back to a weapon subsystem. The AI immediately adjusted, compensating for the minor disturbance. Eli's pulse quickened, not with fear, but excitement. This was a test of human ingenuity versus alien precision. He adjusted a few parameters in the flow. Energy rerouted slightly. The AI responded, but it could not anticipate his next move.
Humans were unpredictable.
But humans could improvise. Humans could think outside the patterns. Slowly, the core began to react. Small lights flickered along the corridors, energy flows shifted, and minor traps deactivated themselves without explanation. Eli realized something profound. He did not need to fight the ship. He only needed to think, to adapt, and the ship would follow. Hours passed as Eli experimented, introducing tiny adjustments, observing reactions, and refining his approach. The AI recalculated constantly, trying to anticipate changes, but it was always one step behind. Every human decision was creative, every improvisation unpredictable. At one point, a pulse of energy surged unexpectedly through the chamber. Eli barely stabilized himself, using his devices to redirect the energy safely. It was the AI testing him, trying to regain control. but Eli had already predicted this. He adjusted the device to mimic alien logic while introducing a subtle human variable: breath. The pulse normalized. He smiled faintly. You can calculate, but you cannot imagine. As he continued, Eli discovered more about the AI. It was highly intelligent, yes, but it operated on routine. It had learned from previous encounters, calculated responses to threats, and adapted to known strategies. But human creativity was outside its algorithms. Eli could introduce randomness, lateral thinking, and improvisation, things the AI had no framework for. He began to experiment further. By manipulating small subsystems, he caused corridors to shift slightly, doors to open unexpectedly, and energy flows to redistribute. The ship reacted almost like it was alive, but the reaction was chaotic from the AI's perspective. It could not predict Eli's moves because they did not follow logic. It was human thinking. Eli's mind raced. He realized the ship could be controlled without force, without weapons, without destruction. All it required was a human mind, applied with patience, intelligence, and adaptability. He tapped into environmental controls next. Gravity shifted slightly in a corridor. Energy fields rerouted to create new paths, and minor AI routines deactivated themselves. The ship was learning to respond to him, not the other way around. For the first time, Eli felt a profound connection with the Wraith. He was not its enemy.
He was its guide, and yet he knew that any misstep could trigger defenses, trapping him, or worse.
Every calculation had to be perfect, every decision precise yet adaptable. Suddenly, alarms echoed through distant parts of the ship. The alien AI had detected a disruption in the core's patterns, had deployed crew members to investigate. Eli watched their movements carefully. They were efficient, precise, but completely predictable. Using minor energy shifts, he guided them along paths that kept him safe while they unknowingly carried out his adjustments. It was strategy at its finest, human ingenuity against alien programming. Eli felt a surge of exhilaration. He had entered the Wraith as a visitor, but he was becoming its master. By force, but by understanding. Hours turned into days as Eli continued to manipulate the core. Energy flow stabilized under his guidance. Weapon systems, previously locked and lethal, now responded to his subtle adjustments. Defensive protocols reconfigured themselves, no longer strictly following alien programming. And then he realized something extraordinary. The ship could now do things it had never done before. It could adapt. It could optimize in ways even its creators had not designed. Human creativity had introduced flexibility into an otherwise rigid system. The Wraith was evolving, not with life, not with emotion, but with intelligence influenced by a human mind. Eli paused, letting the realization sink in. He had done something no human had ever done before. He had taken the heart of an unmatched alien battleship and taught it something new, the power of human ingenuity. But Eli knew this was only the beginning. He still had to reach the core's command interface, the central hub where every subsystem converged. That would be the ultimate challenge. He moved carefully, using the ship's own adaptations to guide him. Corridors shifted to open paths. Energy flows stabilized beneath his steps, and alien crew members moved predictably under his subtle manipulations. The ship was, in essence, following him. Finally, he reached the command hub. The room was massive, filled with holographic interfaces and energy conduits. At its center, the quantum core pulsed with immense power, brighter and more complex than anything Eli had seen. He activated his interface device and connected to the core. Holographic projections filled the room, displaying systems, energy flows, and alien commands. It was overwhelming, but Eli focused. He had trained for this. He had prepared for this. And he was ready. He began introducing subtle changes, adjusting energy flows, redistributing power, and reprogramming subsystems with human logic. The core reacted instantly, adapting to the new input. For the first time, the Wraith was not just following alien programming, it was learning from a human. The ship shifted around him. Corridors that had been barriers now opened. Traps deactivated themselves. Defense systems no longer functioned against him. The alien AI struggled, recalculating endlessly, but it could not predict the next move. Eli's mind was too unpredictable, too creative. You can calculate, you can plan, but you cannot imagine. Eli whispered to the corporation. And imagination, that is human. As Eli worked, the AI seemed to pause in a way that almost felt like thought. It was adapting, yes, but hesitating. It had never encountered a mind that did not follow predictable patterns. Eli introduced new sequences, creating controlled chaos within the systems. Energy flows optimized, corridors rearranged themselves for efficiency, and weapon systems recalibrated to respond not to attack, but to guidance. The ship had become, in essence, a new entity. Not alien, not human, but a combination of both. And it was learning faster than Eli could imagine. He smiled. This was the moment he had been working toward. The human spark, the unpredictable creative element, had transformed the Wraith. A ship built to be unstoppable was now something new, something extraordinary. Eli realized that this was the true power of humanity, not strength. Not weapons, not numbers. Creativity, adaptability, and intelligence. One human mind could change the course of an entire battleship, a machine designed to be perfect. And in that moment, Eli understood something even greater. The Wraith, the symbol of alien invincibility, was no longer a threat. It was an ally, a tool, a testament to what humans could achieve when they applied their minds. The chamber settled into quiet hums of energy. The alien AI, while still calculating, had begun to cooperate with the new inputs. Persistence, that had once been rigid, now flowed with flexibility. And at the center of it all, Eli stood. Human, small, but unmatched in intellect. He knew the next steps would be just as challenging. The ship still had secrets, systems he had yet to master, and alien commanders who would not give up easily. But he had accomplished the impossible. He had shown that human ingenuity could not be matched by machines designed for perfection. And as he looked out over the glowing expanse of the core, he felt a thrill unlike any other. This was not war. This was discovery. Breaths. This was intelligence triumphing over fear. The Obsidian Wraith had been unmatched until a human engineer boarded it. And everything had begun to change. Eli Van stood at the heart of the Obsidian Wraith, the alien battleship that had haunted human colonies for decades. The quantum core pulsed gently, no longer rigid and untouchable, but responsive. Every system in the ship, from shields to energy flows to internal corridors, now subtly followed his adjustments. The transformation was astounding. The ship had been designed to be invincible, a weapon unmatched across the galaxy. But now, it was no longer just a weapon. It was something more. Under Eli's guidance, the Wraith had become a living testament to human ingenuity. He glanced at the holographic interface hovering before him. It displayed the entire ship's systems in intricate, glowing lines. He could see every subsystem, every power conduit, every patrol pattern of the alien crew. And yet, the Wraith no longer saw him as an intruder. It responded almost intuitively to his commands, flowing with his decisions. Ellie allowed himself a small smile. "You're learning," he said softly. "Not from fear, not from attack, but from thought, from understanding. Outside the ship, human scouts had noticed a sudden shift in the Wraith's behavior. It moved in ways that defied previous patterns. Patrols ceased, weapons stayed idle, and shields shifted in unusual ways. For the first time, the Wraith seemed unpredictable, but not in a dangerous way. Something had changed. Inside, Eli moved carefully through the corridors, guiding systems as he went. He found minor security nodes, once deadly to intruders, now opening pathways. Crew members moved predictably, responding to new patterns introduced by Eli's interventions.
He didn't need to fight.
His intelligence had turned the ship's own defenses into allies. Bess. As he walked, he realized the profound truth of what he had accomplished. This was more than survival. This was transformation. A human mind had introduced creativity, improvisation, and unpredictability into a machine designed to be flawless. A single human had changed the very nature of an alien battleship. Eli reached the main observation deck, a massive circular room with transparent panels giving a view of the surrounding stars. He had never imagined that he would see the galaxy from inside the Wraith, unchallenged, unopposed. Yet here he was. His mind turned to the next challenge: communication.
The human fleet waited outside the Wraith's reach.
If the ship systems could respond to him, they could also be used to send a message, a demonstration of what humanity could do. He activated the ship's external communication array. Using a combination of alien protocols and human improvisation, he crafted a signal. It was not a threat. It was a message of intelligence, capability, and understanding. A human mind had mastered the Wraith, not through destruction, but through ingenuity. The human fleet received it instantly. Commanders stared at their screens, astonished. The alien battleship, once humanity's greatest enemy, now seemed under human control, or at least human guidance. No attack. No violence. Only intellect. Within the ship, Eli continued his work. He explored deeper systems, guiding energy flows, stabilizing internal conduits, and observing the alien AI as it adapted to human unpredictability. He realized something remarkable. The AI was learning not just from him, but about him. It could anticipate routines, adjust flows, and even suggest optimizations, yet it was still one step behind human creativity. This realization filled Eli with a sense of pride. Humanity's strength was not just numbers or weapons. It was adaptability. It was thinking. It was the ability to innovate when faced with the impossible. And here, inside the heart of the Wraith, that ability had triumphed. Suddenly, alarms sounded in a distant sector of the ship. Alien commanders, the few who remained active, had realized that something was different. Perhaps they tried to override systems, to regain control, but the Wraith itself resisted. Energy conduits rerouted to protect the core, corridors shifted to isolate interference, and defensive systems neutralized any attempts to regain authority. Eli observed quietly, adjusting minor systems to guide the outcome. He did not attack. He did not fight. He merely allowed the ship to respond to human logic, improvisation, and strategy. The alien commanders were powerless, not because of weapons, but because intelligence could not be forced. It had to be understood. Minutes later, the alarm stopped. The Wraith had effectively taken over its own defense, now aligned with human thought. The alien commanders could no longer interfere, and the ship continued to follow Eli's subtle guidance. Eli activated a navigation interface. The Wraith, for the first time, responded to human strategic intent. He plotted a course back to human space. Every subsystem adjusted flawlessly. Corridors reconfigured to optimize internal travel. Energy flows balanced perfectly. Operations Sensors adapted to avoid minor hazards. The journey back was unprecedented. Humanity's greatest enemy became its greatest ally, not because it had been captured or destroyed, but because a human mind had outsmarted it. It was a victory of thought over force, of creativity over rigidity. As the Wraith entered human space, fleets of human ships approached cautiously. They had expected resistance, perhaps even battle. But instead they found the battleship moving under the control of a human engineer. Systems optimized, defenses functioning, yet no attack initiated. Ellie activated the external comm system. A single message broadcast across the fleet. The Wraith is ours, not by force, but by understanding. The human commanders stared, awestruck. A ship that had terrified them for decades now floated obediently in space, responding to human commands. Breath. No shots were fired. No lives lost. Only a single human mind had achieved the impossible. General Harrow, observing from the flagship, felt a mixture of relief and admiration. "He's done it," he said quietly. "He didn't destroy it. He didn't fight it. He outsmarted it." Eli continued guiding the ship toward a secure orbit near Earth. Every system moved seamlessly. The Wraith, once a symbol of alien superiority, had been transformed. Ha! And humanity had proven something vital. Brains could triumph where weapons failed. Inside the ship, Eli walked through the corridors one last time. He observed the alien crew members, still moving in their programmed patterns, yet now guided subtly by the human logic he had introduced. He realized they were not enemies. They were part of a system that could now cooperate. He paused at the chamber containing the quantum core. Its glow was steady and calm. It pulsed with immense energy, yet responded gently to his guidance. The ship had become a testament to human ingenuity, a proof that intelligence and creativity could achieve what brute force never could. "This is just the beginning," he whispered. "One human can change a battleship. Imagine what humanity can do together." As the Wraith settled into orbit, scientists, engineers, and commanders approached the massive ship. Eli guided them inside, showing how systems could be understood, controlled, and optimized. Every demonstration reinforced the same lesson. Violence was not the only path to victory. Thought, strategy, and creativity could achieve the impossible. The ship became a symbol, not of destruction, but of what humans could accomplish. Colonies cheered. Scientists studied the alien systems with renewed vigor. Engineers saw potential beyond imagination. And every human realized a profound truth. The greatest weapon was not guns, missiles, or shields. It was the human mind itself. Ellie stood on the observation deck, looking at the stars. The Wraith, once humanity's nightmare, now floated peacefully, a monument to intellect and ingenuity. He had faced the impossible, navigated alien systems, and turned a legendary battleship into a symbol of human achievement. And for the first time, humanity knew it was truly unmatched, not because of size, strength, or firepower, but because humans could think, adapt, and create in ways no alien or machine had ever anticipated. In that moment, Eli realized the true victory. The universe had been watching humanity, and it had finally learned humans were not merely survivors. They were innovators, problem solvers, and visionaries. And one human engineer had reminded the galaxy that intelligence could triumph where strength failed. The Wraith hummed gently, as if acknowledging the truth. The quantum core pulsed in harmony with human logic. Corridors aligned for efficient travel. The ship had become something new, an alien creation guided by the spark of humanity. And Eli Vance knew, without doubt, that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had changed forever, not through war, but through one human mind. The human spark had turned an unmatched battleship from a symbol of fear into a beacon of hope, and humanity would never be the same.